Time is 6 p.m. Council of the City of Denison now convenes in a regular session. Tonight's invocation will be given by Sammy Garcia, pastor. You're going to have to help me.
Yeah.
Baptist, I can say it in English.
Iglesia Bautista Camino Real here in Denison.
Right. Baptist Church out on Highway 69. Come
Yes.
forward, please. Thanks.
Okay. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have given us. Thank you for everybody that are here. And I just pray for the Holy Spirit to guide us, to teach us, and to help us to make the right decisions for everybody. And your name will be glorified, and a blessing will be for all the citizens of Denison. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 2, the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item number 3A, public hearing for the 2013-14 CDBG performance report. Sean's,
Mayor, members of the council, every year HUD requires 2 public hearings before we can submit the CAPER. This year's 2013 and 14 CAPER. The first public hearing was on December the 4th with the CDBG steering committee, and this will be the second. Once we submit this, we will submit this report this week once all the requirements are met.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Any other discussion from council? We'll take action on this in January. Is that right?
Yes.
First meeting.
Take action on the CAPER. No, this is it. This is the second public hearing
This
for
is the second.
2013.
Okay. Okay. Motion to council.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 3B, public hearing on zone change 2827 West Morton, Ms. Crockett.
Mayor and council, we're here tonight to receive, report, hold a public hearing, and consider an ordinance for a zone change from multifamily 1 district and single-family 7.5 district to commercial district for property out of Thorpe subdivision lot 1 and a .177 acre tract and a .224 acre tract out of the LC Alexander survey, abstract 41, for a total of 2.033 acres at 2827 West Morton. Applicant, Dr. Madge, would like to develop the property for many warehouses. Surrounding zoning consists of planned development for many warehouses, commercial district, and single-family 7.5 district. The land use plan recommends community retail district. This district is for moderate to medium-sized office, retail, and commercial uses that serve a large section of the community. This location is subject to the site plan approval under the highway-oriented district regulations. Screening fence will be required to screen the residential from commercial. We notified 27 property owners and had 2 approvals and no disapprovals. Staff had recommended approval, and Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval for this commercial district.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this agenda item? The applicant's here. Dr. Madge is here to answer questions. There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council.
Mayor, move to approve the zone change. Second.
Have a motion, Councilman Beck, second Councilman Brawley. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 3C, public hearing on, pardon?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's the second part of this one, right?
Right.
Public hearing on the special use permit 2827 West Morton.
Mayor and council, you're here tonight to receive a report, hold a public hearing, and consider an ordinance for a conditional use permit for many warehouses for property out of the Thorpe Addition, 2827 West Morton. Applicant Dr. Madge has applied for this conditional use permit, and planning and zoning had recommended approving staff's recommendation.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Ballard, second from Councilmember Gott, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 3D, public hearing on 529 and 531 West, 529 and 531 Bryan Street for zone change. Ms. Brown.
Mayor and council, we're here tonight to receive a report, hold a public hearing, and consider an ordinance for a zone change from local retail district to multifamily 1 district for property on the Western Terrace Addition, Section 2, and part of Lot 1, Block 2. Mr. Wilson came into my office this afternoon, and he has decided to, instead of constructing 2 duplexes on this property, he would like to construct 1 triplex. This would require him to go back through planning and zoning and then come back before you. But we are posted for a public hearing, and we are recommending tonight that you disapprove this request, and it'll go back to planning and zoning and to be heard as a triplex rather than 2 duplexes.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. I guess the council can go ahead and weigh in. There was nothing to table because we have to deny the request for, well, we don't have to, but it'd be my recommendation to for sure, so that he can go back and apply for the triplex. The lot's simply not big enough for a quadplex, and I don't know where you would stop if we started allowing quadplexes on lots that can't accommodate that. That lot is an oversized lot though for a triplex. I think, Mr. Hammond.
He is going to submit a site plan, elevations, and give us an understanding of what it is he wants to build. We'll either move forward with multifamily 1 or a planned development, depending on what his submittal looks like. Another reason for denying tonight is that there's a contingent zoning variance granted on the approval of the zoning district. And there are a number of variances that have been granted that frankly staff has a hard time with. And I worry about the ultimate legality of those variances. So the cleanest thing, in my opinion, to do is to deny the zoning request and start fresh from the beginning.
Make a motion to deny zoning request.
Second. Have a motion, Councilman Raleigh, second, Councilman Beck, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 4A, Waterloo Park Regional Master Plan. Ms. Mack.
Mayor and council, in 2013, the city contracted with Latera Studio to complete a master plan for the Waterloo Lake Regional Park. We have held a public survey, a public meeting, multiple meetings through the Parks and Rec Commission and with staff. On October 27th, the Parks and Recreation Commission has recommended the master plan to be approved. And at this time, Mr. Brad Moulton is here, and he's going to let you see the completed plan.
Brad.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's always a joy to be here at this time with a completed master plan for your review and approval. I know you've been able to review it in your packet so far, but we'll go through this brief summary of what will essentially be the document, this book right here. This is a quick PowerPoint just showing the highlights. As Sonny mentioned, we've been working the past year on this master plan, which essentially started with the public input meeting. We went through several surveys and talking with staff and Parks and Rec Commission on some of the desires of the park and improvements needed We went through a phase of conceptual master plans, and then really got down to a master plan that we've been working on the past several months with Parks and Rec Commission. So we'll go through a brief summary of the public meeting last year. I believe we have already given you an update on this last time we were here, but it was a great turnout. We had about 40, 50 people there. Very warm afternoon. Had a lot of great conversations and input about the park, and really passionate group of people. And really what we pulled out of this, that one of the things that we kind of expected from this park and from the people passionate about is the natural character and what it is to preserve that when looking at doing a design in Waterloo Park. So that was kind of the overarching theme of this entire master plan is creating a new updated space without jeopardizing that natural character that's so special about Waterloo. So when looking at the park itself, we divided it into 5 different sections, and actually 6, including Waterloo Pool. And just to get into detail on each of those, then we started with a concept plan. This was what we were working on with Parks and Rec Commission, and we ended up with this final master plan. It's a little bit small on the screen to see, but we'll go through some blow-ups of each area and then just talk about some of the improvements that we've discussed. And then Sunny has some information about a potential phase 1 of what we'd like to look at in terms of the implementation phase. So this area, what we've coined as kind of the north lake shore, from essentially the pavilion over to the forested shoreline. Some of the improvements that were really desired there were upgrades to the boat dock, creating accessible routes from the fish pond down to the pavilion and the playground, and then potentially even another secondary loop over in the kind of natural meadow area. One of the keys to this master plan is creating a contiguous loop around the lake, however, not compromising the forested shoreline on the west side or changing that into a paved trail. We'd like to keep that as natural and in its existing condition as possible, but we'd like to provide access to that around the north side as well as the south side with an improved paved trail. Currently, right now, there's about an 8-foot crumbling asphalt trail, and this would be a 14-foot concrete trail that would provide multi-use access with bikes, walkers, strollers, with full AASHTO standards where you can stripe the middle and actually have one side going up and one side coming back. The key to this plan too is creating these, you can't see that on the screen, but when you get to that forested shoreline area, is creating a turnaround so people don't necessarily have to go through that forested area, but they can actually turn back around and stay on that multi-use trail and go back around the lake the other way. Talking about the forested shoreline, keeping that as natural as possible. You'll see some examples of some of the types of development in that area, keeping it that beaten path type feel where it's understood that some of the erosion and some of the safety concerns on the sides of the cliffs may be an issue. That's where in our implementation plan, most of the work in this area would be creating a safe atmosphere for people that are experiencing that area. So essentially mainly just shoreline erosion control and erosion control on the trail itself, and then the potential for some scenic overlooks on some of those spectacular views you have looking out of the trees onto the lake in that area. Some really, really special elevated spaces in there. Looking at the area south of the dam, again, another real natural space. On the master plan, we've organized it into some nature trails, but then also along Waterloo Lake Drive is really that active space that with the playground right now that's kind of spread out into several different pods. This master plan would propose combining that all into one large playground with multiple age uses. One area for 2 to 5-year-olds, one area for 5 to 12. Typically the ages and different playground equipment styles. Really looking at a natural theme to fit in with the wooded areas of the park. Also proposed in that area, as we divide that into different uses, would be a potential dog park for that space. There should be plenty of room for one small dog and one large dog area. Additional parking along the road. Not much different than what you have right now, just a small slip road parking. We're not proposing to take up a lot of space in the park with large parking lots. We'd like to, one of the other goals of this plan is to organize parking in the sense of preserving more of the park, where if people are parking on some of the areas such as on the next space, which can actually damage the trees and the soil below, such as Culpeper Field, where people are kind of parking just east of the fields, where we would propose organizing that into some actual parking spaces to try to preserve that natural character in that space. At the Waterloo Pool, one of the items explored here would be a splash pad, somehow incorporated to the area just west of or east of the pool. This could take many different sizes, as we've talked about in this master plan all along. This is a roadmap to get to these specific projects as the Waterloo Lake implementation funds are allocated or other items come up. These specific projects should be studied in detail on the actual size and scope of how big that splash pad could actually be and how it functions with the existing pool. This area is really, really neat in terms of the natural character in this. We're almost coining this a park within the park. Just adjacent to the, down the hill from the baseball fields, there's that small little loop road that goes back to the sand volleyball court, and we just found that area to be kind of a special picnic area that's almost underutilized right now. Creating a space that could cross that creek. We've programmed some creek restoration, a small parking lot, restoration of the loop road that's in that space, and then as well as a trail. Access from this space up to the baseball fields will be a challenge due to the grade change, but there could be some sort of stairs or some sort of access with accessible routes around the other side. So then going through, these are just some of the summary pages from the actual master plan document. We also went through kind of a signage vernacular, looking at different items, creating a family of signage for the park. We'd like to look into areas of wayfinding in terms of major park signage, identification signs of park elements. We'd like that family to really feel like when you're up at the boat dock near the near the rental pavilion, you're in the same park as when you're down at the baseball fields. It's still all Waterloo Lake Park. As well as directional signage as you're on each trail, telling you where you are, how far you have to go. One of the items in the public meeting was, as people reach that forested shoreline, they may not know how much further they have to go, and they just travel in there, and then they're like, I gotta get back. So we've talked about maps of where you are and how far you have to go, or turn around if you don't want to go further. So that would be a whole level of signage throughout the park. So then this gets down to the end of the master plan book, which is actually the implementation plan. And what we like to do in the back of these documents is actually provide a checkbox and a completion date. So this living document, on Sonny's desk, on Robert's desk, and Jared's hand is actually checked off and have a date when these projects are completed. So moving forward, this plan lives on with the park, and we know 3, 4, or 5 years down the road, okay, what's next? So looking at these items, we've done a brief high-level cost estimate for the entire park, and we've applied potential prices for these items. And talking with Sonny, we've kind of identified a potential phase 1 area that would be really an asset to the park, which would essentially be the trailhead and trail phase from the original, or from the rental pavilion area over to the forested shoreline. I'm going to be here to answer any other questions as well. I believe Sonny has some more information on the phase 1, but if you have any questions on the master plan.
I don't know, phase one is it's a separate agenda item.
Sure.
We can, and so the document that we have, I know Mr. Hannah and I was a little bit earlier today, that you guys helped us with, a 10-year plan to use the Waterloo regional dollars.
Correct.
Okay? I guess now that will be slightly checked, tweaked as staff go
Yeah.
back and.
What we'll do now is take this document and take their project list and then apply that to the implementation plan. That's something that Say and I will work on with the Parks Board and say, okay, what are the priorities? Here's our funding reality, and then just do a timeline. This is what we think we can get this done if the dollars are available.
Because what's good about that is that actually shows budgeted allocations that we hope are gonna be steady based on that revenue stream that we have. Yeah, good. Any other discussion? And so I guess at some point in the first quarter, y'all will probably have something to come back for us in the 10-year.
Yes, sir.
Because I know we approved that at one point too, so.
You did. And we will come back and be with an amendment to that plan. And really what we're asking for council to do, not on this item, is just to adopt the master plan if they're comfortable with it. If they're not, let us know what information you need to become comfortable with it.
Mayor, I move to approve the Waterloo Lake Regional Park Master Plan.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Brad. Agenda item 4B, phase 1, the grant application. Sonny is guaranteed we're gonna finish it.
There are no guarantees, but we will sure try. Mayor and council, for phase 1 of the Waterloo Lake Regional Master Plan, we would like to begin seeking grant money. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department offers a competitive recreational trails grant that if we were awarded, it could be funded up to 80% of our grant. The items on the grant would include, as Brad said, the North Shore Trailhead, the North Lakeside Trail, which would be the 14-foot wide concrete path, the Fish Pond Connection, which would be an 8-foot wide path, and a mountain bike trail, which would be a single track, soft surface. And that is on the property that is located to the east of the paved walking track now, that area. 196,000 is the amount we would request. 20% is what we have to do. Maximum dollars would be 40,000 out of our fund that we have already, which currently the balance now is around 114,000. There are also allowable costs for in-kind, so maximum amount of money would be the 40.
Sonny, do you know if on the scoring of this type of grant, if we did higher than the 20%, I guess I'm assuming we get better points for that?
We do.
So I guess is there, especially since, is there any merit for us to maybe bump in our 20% to 30% to be more competitive?
That is on the application. You know, if you are able to do more than the 20%, that you do get more points.
Maybe, let me ask a question a different way. Brad, in your experience with these grants, because you're helping us with the submittal here, is there a percentage point that has been viewed more favorably by the Texas Park System? Other than, like, if it's 30%, maybe it's 40%. You know, we don't want to miss it by a hair.
Right, and I mean, I would definitely say going above the request, the minimum is definitely a boost. But around 30 or 40 would probably be a significant boost in percentage chances.
So maybe, Robert, if we made a motion tonight that we gave you all the discretion to do up to 35%, if after a little more research, y'all feel like it really enhances the application. Because that money is coming out of the park fund, and if we get it, we're getting a $200,000+ project for $50,000. It's, the mountain bike thing is key, I think. I know there's a lot of interest in that. Just the overall, it's a good first project, in my opinion.
Is the data available to show what history of success has been based on what they've committed from other cities or other projects? Is that available?
We can look into that. We have.
I'd like to see if we're even in
have
the ballpark of 35%.
Yeah.
If that's,
I do have some contacts that we could work with Mr. Hannon
We would like to go ahead, if at all possible, and go ahead and ask for 40,000 of the money to start on the erosion repairs that need to be taken care of, that are on the west side of the lake. And then the boat dock improvement, and that's included in phase one. That wouldn't be included in the grant.
And Sonny, that's if we don't get the grant, correct?
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
if we don't get the grant, we want to do those improvements
Yes.
anyways.
Yes.
These are permanent solutions for the erosion, or is this we'll have maintenance, but it's
Right.
it's intended to be a finish.
Motion from council?
Make a motion to support the grant application, that and then have staff with direction of up to 35% for funding.
That motion from Councilman Beck, second from Councilman Brawley, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Happy grant writing, good luck.
Thank you.
Good job, Sonny.
Agenda item 4C, certificates of obligation.
Mayor, members of the council, we're here tonight to receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the adoption of a resolution directing publication of notice of intention to issue combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation of the city of Denison. This is the 2015 certificates of obligation issuance that will be used to fund water and sewer capital projects, including but not limited to improvements to the Randell Dam and Spillway, water line projects, and the automated meter reading that we discussed during the budget process. This is to adopt the resolution directing the publication that will appear in the paper on December 22nd and December 29th, and then we come back in February to authorize the issuance. The actual issuance will be authorized in February.
Discussion from council. Motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Malvern, second from Councilman Regatta, all in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 4D, Lake Texoma Association request for a letter of endorsement, I guess. Mr. Hand.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is a consideration to endorse House Resolution 5604, which is presently filed in the United States House of Representatives, sponsored by Congressman Ralph Hall. It is currently, has been filed as the status. It's not in committee, it's just filed. But we received this request to support the legislation because the efforts of the Lake Texoma Association in trying to increase the elevation available for the maximum pool height of the lake. They want to go to 619 mean sea level. If they did that, it would increase additional surface water allocation rights potentially. And the way the legislation is currently written, that increased allocation would go to the districts. And when I asked the representative of the association what that meant, they asked their lobbyists what that meant. And it was, as I thought, it was North Texas Municipal Water District and Greater Texas Utility Authority would have preferential treatment over the ability to take that allocation, which I thought was unnecessarily hamstringing municipal utility providers. And if they're going to reallocate the water for essentially the same purpose, public drinking water, that municipalities should have the same access to that on the same first basis as utility districts. There was some discussion about, we think we can probably get you there, but until I see it in black and white, I'm really not supportive from a staff standpoint of the city endorsing the bill. The other item that is somewhat concerning is that they're going to have to, they're suggesting that you stop pumping water at or below 614 MSL. And if you do that, a hydroelectric utility provider that's there now is going to they're going to give up a lot of their production capacity. They're going to want to get paid for that because they made significant investment in the turbines at the dam to generate hydroelectric power. If if you're saying now you can't generate hydroelectric power any point below this certain point, and you used to be able to do that, and all of their business models and all their debt models and all their capital models are based off the ability to produce the power at a certain level, and now you raise that, they're gonna want compensation, and they may go to court to get it. I'd like to see language in there that ensures that the city of Denison isn't responsible for compensating them for that. There's been no talk of making the city a paying party there, but if we're writing a bill, let's write it right. And let's make sure that innocent parties are protected from having to pay for things that they didn't cause. So that's also language that I think really ought to be in a bill if the city of Denison is going to endorse it. Those are really the two things that I see from a staff standpoint that are problematic with legislation. My personal opinion, I think it has a hard time passing. I think there's a lot of interests at play here, not only interests in Lake Texoma, but interests across the country that are probably going to try to limit this because of the precedents it may set for other reservoirs. But that's all guessing on my part. I don't have any hard data to support any of that. So staff's recommendation is simply that if council wants to endorse this legislation, that we do so in a fashion that makes sure that our objections to it are noted within our endorsement. And we would withhold an endorsement until those objections are cured. Or we just don't endorse it at all and wait for them to express our concerns, wait for them to cure the legislation from those objections. Or council can take it as is. It's totally up to you. This is 100% a policy decision. But that's staff's analysis of the request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I know that this has come a long way from the first draft, I guess, several months ago, where it actually required that the cities would curtail at a certain level. And that is now gone.
That is good.
But I agree with Mr. Hanna. I just don't see that there's any benefit to us taking any action until the two main issues are cured, one point or the other. I mean, if they put in language into the bill that prevents litigation and that puts municipalities on the same playing field as the wholesale sellers, then I would be fine with it. I just don't see any value in sending anything other than authorizing staff to go back and tell them that's our concerns at this point.
I agree. I'm on the same page when I was reading it, the GTUA and the other ones, that how the wording was for them, that wasn't in favor of that.
I'd like to suggest we talk to the power company out there that's doing hydroelectric and find out at what lake elevation that it's not feasible any longer to generate power. And I think you'll find that number elevation is much higher than where we can actually pump water currently. So it may be more of a concern with future water usage for drinking water municipalities than it is the hydroelectric use.
David, do you know the number off the top of your head? Is it 612, 610 for hydroelectric power stops?
I do not know. They diminished as much as they could below 610, and have not hardly had any discharges below 610.
But they have the right to take further down. We can get the specific.
But you don't get the energy at some level. It's
Correct.
kind of like a water tower, works on the same principle. That it's somewhere, I think it's just south of 608. Could be.
You know, I think the goal of the Lake Texoma Association, I get it, and I'm with them on the goal. We just have to see language in that protects the citizens from any undue harm. I mean, their goal is to keep the lake level at a recreational point where it can be used. I get that, and we support that. I support that.
I don't know if it's possible for Congress to write saying that municipalities aren't going to be on the hook if Southwestern, I think it's Southwestern Power Administration goes after somebody. But whatever language can be there that is most protective to municipal interests and really the public's interest, I think it surely ought to be. And the power company is gonna say, hey, we've got a public interest too. You know, people are buying our energy. It's not just sitting out there. The public needs it. So I think there's a number of competing issues here that are gonna be problematic for passage. And if I understand council's direction, it's essentially that we'll go back to the association, indicate our concerns. And if I've misunderstood that direction.
So in essence, no action taken at all, unless anybody wants to make a motion.
Does it need to be tabled?
Not necessarily.
Okay. No action taken. Council will now go into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss possible purchase, exchange, lease, or sale of real property, and to discuss the employment, evaluation, assignment of duties, and commissions. Time is 6:36, and